is used twice, which I want us to take a look at in verses 2 and 3 of chapter 2. It's the little word rested. It's used in verse 2, where it says that he rested. And it's used once again in verse 3, where once again we're told that he rested. Now that word rested is the Hebrew word Shabbat, where we get our word Sabbath from. In other words, God Shabbat. Now let me tell you something about the word Shabbat. The word Shabbat does not describe quality of rest. It does not describe how God rested, what manner of rest he experienced. The word Shabbat simply means to cease, to stop. You know, even today we use that word in a court of law when the district attorney has presented his case and he's finished presenting his case. At least in the United States, we say the prosecution rests. Does that mean that the prosecutor is going on vacation to Hawaii? Does it mean that he needs a vacation, that he's going to rest, that he's famished? Of course not. It simply means that the prosecutor has ended or ceased presenting his case. In other words, the word Shabbat does not describe how God rested on the seventh day, what his rest was like on the seventh day. The word Shabbat simply means that God ceased. He created no more after the sixth day. You know, this meaning of Shabbat was caught by Kenneth Vine in his book, Vine's Expository Dictionary of Biblical Words, with the following words. The writer of Genesis 2:3 is not stressing rest from work, but rather God's ceasing from his creative work since it was complete. In other words, the word Shabbat means that when God ended his work, the sixth day, he ceased. In other words, he created no more. So what I want you to see is that this first week of human history is what I call God's week. It is not man's week, it's God's week. Because God worked 6 and God rested on the 7th. Yet we're still left with a question. What did God do after he ceased? What quality of rest did God experience on the 7th day? How did God rest? What did he do on the 7th day? We know he didn't work, but what did he do that whole day? What was the quality or what kind of rest did he have? The fact is that the word Shabbat doesn't help us because the word Shabbat simply says that after he finished his work, the 6th day he ceased. Now I can assure you one thing, and that is that God's rest on the Sabbath, his quality of rest on the Sabbath was not because he was tired. Notice Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28, which by the way is not being taken out of context because it's dealing with creation. Isaiah chapter 40 and verse 28. Here the prophet says, "Have you not known? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is what? Nor is weary." Do you think that God, after he created, he says, "Whew, I need a rest"? I mean, how much tiredness can be produced by saying, "Let there be light. Let there be the firmament. Let there be dry land. Let there be trees and flowers. Let the sun, moon, and stars occupy their places. Let there be birds. Let there be fish. Let there be land animals." I mean, how much effort does that take? So we know that God did not rest. His quality of rest was not because he was tired. So we ask, what was his quality of rest? What did he do the 7th day when he ceased? The fact is that we have 2 words in the Old Testament that help us understand the quality of God's rest on the 7th day. Go with me to Exodus 31 and verse 17. Exodus chapter 31 and verse 17. It says there, speaking about the Sabbath, It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. And some people say, see, it was for Israel forever. Let me ask you, to whom did God give the Ten Commandments? To Moses, right? And whom did he give the Ten Commandments to? Israel. So because God gave the Ten Commandments to Israel, the Ten Commandments are only for Israel. You don't buy that, do you? Of course not. Just because they were given to Israel does not mean that they were given exclusively to Israel. See, God is speaking in the context of Moses and Israel. So he says it's a sign between him and Israel. If he was writing today, he would say it's a sign between God and us. And by the way, we know who Israel is. If you are Christ, you are Abraham's seed, and heirs according to the promise. So it says there, it is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day he rested. Guess what word that is? Shabbat. That's right. He rested, but now we have to find another word. He rested and was what? Refreshed. It's the Hebrew word nafash, a very rare word in the Old Testament. Do you know what nafash means? It means to take a breath. It means like going like this. That's nafash. Can you picture God? It's kind of like an artist who has done a majestic work of art, a masterpiece, puts the final touches on the canvas, and then he steps back, he goes, that's nafash. In other words, the idea is that God is stepping back and he's taking a breath and he's enjoying what he made. That's what the word nafash means. It means to take a breath.